Hello and welcome to Cloaker's Education Foundation, providing quality content for amazing teachers and students. If you're joining us from a previous lesson or previous video, welcome back. And if this is your first time, we're glad you're here. This is our World History series, and this lesson is on Judaism. Now, before we begin, don't forget to check out the link in the description below for a set of free guided notes to go along with this lesson. While you're there, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can continue to expand our reach and educate. Thank you. Now let's dive in. The objective of this lesson is that students will be able to explain the origins, key beliefs, and historical significance of Judaism, including its text and influence on later monotheistic religions. Our essential question for this lesson is: in what ways did the origins and teachings of Judaism shape later civilizations and belief systems? So to answer this, our lesson is divided up into three parts: the origins of Judaism, Moses and the Exodus, and the kingdom of Israel. So to set the stage, Canaan was the ancient home of the Hebrews. The Hebrews, later called the Jews. The Hebrew history, legends, and moral laws have had a major influence on Western culture, and part of their history is shared with Christianity and Islam. You can see here that the land of Canaan is situated between Egypt and Mesopotamia. And thus begins the search for a promised land. Ancient Palestine's location made it an important crossroad for the ancient world, Palestine being the region at the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea. The Hebrews settled in Canaan, which was located in Palestine. And according to the Bible, Canaan was the land God had promised to the Hebrews. The religious text for the Hebrews and Judaism is known as the Torah. Most of what we know about the early Hebrew history is found in the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, known as the Torah. The Torah is the most sacred writings to the Hebrew and makes up part of the Old Testaments for Christianity. In the Torah, God chose Abraham to be the father of the Hebrew people. Abraham was a shepherd who lived in the city of Ur, and God commanded him to move his people to Canaan around 1800 BC. Around 1650, the descendants of Abraham moved to Egypt, and the Hebrews were a monotheistic people. They worshiped God Yahweh. Now this set them aside from the polytheistic religions and cultures that surrounded them and dominated the ancient world. The emphasis on the covenant, a promise made by Abraham and his people to obey Yahweh, and in return, Yahweh had promised to protect Abraham and his descendants. You can see here Abraham's journey from ancient Babylonia of the city of Ur all the way up through Mesopotamia and down to the land of Canaan, eventually making their way to Egypt, and then the Hebrew migration out of Egypt around 1200 BC. Now, the story of the Hebrew people leaving Egypt is known as the Exodus, led by Moses. The Bible says that Hebrews migrated to Egypt due to drought and famine, and at first they were accepted by the Egyptians, but were later forced into slavery. And thus we introduce the main character of this section, Moses. At the time of Moses' birth, Pharaoh felt threatened by the Hebrew people and commanded that all of the firstborn males be killed. Moses' mother laid him in the reeds of the Nile in order to save him, and an Egyptian princess found him and found the basket in the Nile and took him and raised him as her own in luxury as Egyptian royalty. Now, this is somewhat similar to the Christian story of Herod ordering the death of all firstborn males. Moses did not forget his Hebrew birth, but no one knew, including Pharaoh. Eventually, Moses' secret will get out and he'll be forced into slavery by the Egyptians. But by the command of God, he was told to lead the Hebrews out of Egypt. And so he approaches Pharaoh and tells him that he needs to let my people go. This is known as the Exodus. Now, Pharaoh, of course, refused at the start, and this is the story of the 7 plagues that Moses brought down upon Egypt, ending with the death of the firstborn child, very similar to what the Pharaoh had ordered when Moses was born. The 10 plagues Moses brought upon Egypt, the Pharaoh released the Hebrews, and Moses led them out of Egypt. However, as the story goes, the Pharaoh's heart changed, and so he ordered his troops to chase down the Hebrews. And thus Moses parted the Red Sea to escape the Hebrews, and the waters closed behind them, crushing the Egyptian forces. Now, some historians will argue whether it was the Red Sea or the Reed Sea, but that has yet to be determined by any archaeological source. And so, as the Hebrews traveled across the Sinai Peninsula, Moses went up Mount Sinai to pray, as the story is told, and in the Bible it says that he spoke to God and was given the 10 Commandments. Now, these 10 Commandments and other religious teachings become the basis for religious laws of Judaism as well as Christianity. There was even a film made about this event known as the 10 Commandments, quote, the greatest event in motion picture history, although the film is quite dated and quite extraordinarily long. You can check it out on your own time. And so, as the story goes, Moses comes down from Mount Sinai. He sees his people dancing and praising around a golden calf. He throws the 10 Commandments down, and thus they crack and shatter. They're forced to roam the desert for 40 years as punishment, and Moses will die before his people are allowed to cross into the land of Canaan. Now, when the Hebrews cross into the land of Canaan, it is a harsh climate, desert, rocky wilderness, and the hot valley of the river Jordan. The tribe of Judah was the last remaining of the Hebrews, and were soon called the Jews with their religion of Judaism. The kingdoms of Judah and Israel will unite under one. Israel, as we know it today, the official country, would not be formed until after World War II in 1948. But during this time, the kingdom of Israel will be established. Solomon will become the most powerful of the Hebrew kings, thus building a massive and wealthy trading empire, glorifying the city of Jerusalem, and it is there where he builds an important temple known as Solomon's Temple. This will, of course, be a focal point in some of the teachings of Jesus Christ. The kingdom would eventually redivide into two, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Here you can see the ancient kingdoms of Judah and Israel superimposed over a map with the modern borders of the nation Israel. This here is an artist's rendition, a very famous painting of Solomon's Temple based off of the descriptions in the Torah and the Bible of what it looked like and the surrounding environment. To quote Abraham Lincoln, he once stated that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Unfortunately, with the division in the ancient kingdom, word of instability and weakness is going to spread rapidly. And the Assyrian Empire will demand that both Israel and Judah pay tribute to them. Tribute is money paid by a weaker power to a stronger power for protection or for peace. A please don't invade me if you will fee. Even though they paid the tribute, they were still invaded by the Assyrians. In 725 BC, the Assyrians invaded Samaria, the capital of Israel, and in 722 the entire northern kingdom was under Assyrian control. Franklin famously said that we should all hang together, or assuredly we will all hang separately. And there's some truth to that. The southern kingdom is going to last quite a bit longer, 150 years before being conquered by the Babylonians. The Syrians had been losing control to the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, and when the Babylonians take the city of Israel, they will destroy Solomon's temple. In 539 BC, when the Persian king Cyrus the Great takes power, he's going to allow many Hebrew exiles to return to Jerusalem and rebuild Solomon's temple. Now, they're going to dominate the region for quite a while, the Persians will, and then we will see the ancient Greeks with Alexander, for example, and then later the Romans, and the Romans will eventually burn down the Second Temple when they choose to leave. But regardless of the violence and the political history, Jerusalem has been an incredibly important city for Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. You can see in this photo just a clip of the skyline of Jerusalem today. Now, while you might see the city in the background, focus, if you will, towards the bottom of the photo. The wall you see is known as the Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall in Jewish culture, and is to be believed as part of the Second Temple built by Solomon. The mosque, known for its iconic Byzantine architecture, is known as the Dome of the Rock, and is quite a significant location for both Judaism and Islam. For Judaism, it is believed to be the site where Abraham was preparing to offer Isaac as a sacrifice to God, and in Islamic culture, it is believed that this is the place that Muhammad ascended to heaven during the night. The history of the Hebrews has been a long, arduous, and hard journey. It's one of the 5 major religions studied within world history, and theirs will be the oldest and one of the most influential religions. Many of the practices and ideas from Judaism cross into mainstream cultures and Christianity and Islam, even to this day. Now, if you would take a few moments and answer our essential question, in what ways did the origins and teachings of Judaism shape later civilizations and belief systems? That wraps up our lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you found this helpful or if you like this video. It allows us to get a broader reach and continue to educate. You can check us out on Teachers Pay Teachers, YouTube, Rumble, and the Cloaker Education Foundation website. We have a ton of resources for you there that you might like, ton of lessons and videos that you might like, so you can check those out. This lesson can fit into a ton of spots in world history, but if you thought your life was messy, you thought the Hebrews' life was messy, imagine gods fighting over cities, philosophers getting cancel culture for things they may or may not have done, athletes risking life and limb for bragging rights because you don't even get a medal or get to post it on Instagram. Yes, welcome to ancient Greece, where myth and legend meets democracy, and one city's drama shapes the entirety of Western civilization. All that and more is just a click away. I'll see you there.